And welcome to Inside View. My name is John, and we have the great pleasure of being here with longtime serving District 3 Supervisor Merita Callaway. Now, you're not the chair this time, are you?
No, I'm not.
I mean, because this is a little bit of a joke, but and usually they try to, that gavel, you assume it's yours, right? Don't you have some?
Yes, but I don't like the gavel.
You don't like the gavel?
I never use the gavel.
Got it. Okay, it's just the symbol of the gavel.
I did use the gavel once.
Got it.
Years ago, but I don't use the gavel. I find it offensive.
Yeah. So
But I like
But you like the fact that you could use the gavel.
Yes, I like that.
So what's the state of the board? How's the board doing this year?
The board's doing well. We've had, learning curves.
Yeah.
We have a new supervisor, Amanda Follendorf,
Right.
this year. It's nice having a distaff member on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back on the dais.
And I think it's nice even to have the board has a multi-generational makeup now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, which is kind of a good thing. I mean, it's,
There's two of us, myself, Gary Toffanelli, and then Jack,
Yeah,
who's now in his second term,
Yeah.
Ben, who's in his third year, and Amanda, who's in her first 6 months.
yeah. But you guys, I mean, from watching the webcast, if you guys seem to be doing
Yeah,
pretty
we
good.
do well together.
Yeah.
And it's very issue-oriented
Yes.
if we disagree.
Yes. And I think, which I think, from watching it as as a member of the population, it's been almost comforting because it's very businesslike. Yes, you don't
Yeah.
agree on everything, but it's like, okay, yeah, we're not going to get agreement on this. Let's move on.
That's
You
what,
know,
let's
so that
move
way,
on.
let's
Take
move
a
on.
vote, move
Right.
on.
Right.
And we had that issue at our board meeting on Tuesday.
Right.
A couple of issues, it was split vote, took the vote, move on.
I guess another little thing on temperature of the county. What do you see on development? The real estate prices have climbed and everything else. What do you see? Is the volume of potential development and business?
The building department says they're really busy.
Good.
We just approved a contract, excuse me, to hire an outside firm to help with plan checking.
So that's back now
And,
again.
yes.
Outside plan check. Okay.
Outside plan check and inspections,
Okay.
because one, you can't find staff.
Right.
And two, we have the volume of work that we needed.
Right. And I guess, is there any, from the outside looking in, for people looking at just the financial model of the county, so to speak, it seems like the easiest way to raise revenue for the county is if you take a bare lot and put a now $1 million home on it, that becomes quite a decent revenue generator for the county, right?
It does.
Ongoing. I mean,
It does.
I know you don't want overblown
It
growth,
becomes
but
part of the property tax.
right.
And property taxes are about 34% of our revenue.
That's what they're running? Okay.
I mean, then we have there's other revenues that come
Sure.
in, but yeah.
Yeah.
Property taxes amount to about 30, so it's significant. And when we do the budget, we're always asking the assessor, what do you think the assessed value will be
Right,
for this coming year?
right.
And hopefully she says, well, it'll be up 2% versus back 5%, which
Yeah.
we've gone through.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this may sound kind of as a dumb question, but I think from a civics thing, there's a lot of times if people are new to following government and stuff, that there's a lot of organizations that from the outside don't make much sense. But if you start following it, they start making attention. For example, your structure, your board of supervisors, et cetera, but then you have something like the COG. And I think lots of times people realize that COG, in a simple, isn't it? It's basically a container for those transportation funds to go
Correct.
into. I mean, how to explain some of the stuff?
The easy one is
Yeah.
CCW, Calaveras County Water District.
Right.
Everybody thinks that's Calaveras County that I'm
It's not,
with.
right.
And it's not. It's its own agency, its own elected officials.
But how many
So-
of the different county entities are basically legally required to be there for the county to receive funds? I mean, I know for some of the transportation stuff, most counties have something analogous to a COG to
Correct.
be able to,
And they're a bank.
right,
They're a bank for transportation. It's like the Calaveras Community Foundation is a bank for other
Donations.
nonprofit, for donations to
correct.
go back to the community.
Now, as far
Sounds
as
like you're laundering money, doesn't it?
I don't know, but
I
as
didn't
far
say
as
that.
you know, I think some people don't realize if they don't follow government closely, some of this, like for example, fire districts. How do the
Right.
fire districts get their money? How are the fire districts?
They are a taxing entity.
Okay,
Goes back to Prop 13
Right.
and what they get.
right.
And anything else has had to be approved by the voters. In Calaveras, we have 9 fire districts, which is a lot,
Yeah.
but they each have their own boards. And
Do they get a
It's-
property? I mean, other than like Measure A or something like that passed in Ebbets, or
they
some of the
do.
ones that just
if it was there when Prop 13 went in,
okay.
and they would get 0.12%.
But if it was
of-
not,
If it was not, then they don't.
okay,
So, I mean, I'm more familiar with Murphy's and Ebbets
Right.
Pass.
right.
They get a very small percentage of the property tax.
Okay, all right.
So,
But
as do
in-
some of the
But
schools.
those districts are a pass through. That it comes to the county first, right, and then it gets passed through to the districts, or how does that?
It comes, yes, correct.
Okay.
So when, in our district,
Right,
when you pay your property, well, it's anywhere in the county, you pay your property taxes, we collect it, and then we give the fire districts
Right.
or the
Right.
school districts or whatever, their share of that property tax.
is that the same with? I know I'm being a little redundant here, but we've had a couple.
Cemetery district?
Yes, because we've had questions like this
Yeah.
from the news side. I've had some emails. Why, this is all a waste of governmental time, all these this and that. I says, well, yes and no, because sometimes they need that structure as a container to be able to get the funds.
So in Calaveras, and most counties it
Right.
works, we are the bank for these districts.
Right,
You pay your property tax, it comes to, and now in our case, Barbara Sullivan,
mm-hmm.
and then Barbara distributes it to whatever their minuscule percentages of the property tax.
Yeah. While we're on fire stuff, as far as how is funding for some of the fire, I mean, most of the districts seem pretty happy right now as far as, I mean, we don't,
No, they're struggling, they're very expensive,
yeah.
they're capital intensive,
Mhm.
really. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, their equipment, a fire engine's what, 300,000-400,000
Oh, yeah.
fully equipped?
Yep,
They're frequently volunteer oriented. We have some Ebbets Pass copper
Mhm.
that have paid, some have maybe a couple of paid
Mhm.
firefighters. And then the last election, some of the fire districts got funded,
Some
some
did.
didn't.
One of the things is I think, I don't know if it's illustrative for people to realize that, if people are familiar with, say, the Ebbets Pass, Ebbets Pass Fire District, is now with all the people moving in full-time into their second home, some of this has changed a little bit, but people needed to I think some of the locals need to realize that a lot of times those vacation homes and those non-used properties help subsidize
Yes.
help subsidize the full-time
Yes,
residents. And I think lots of
absolutely.
times there's always the flatlanders and all, the dreaded stuff, but I think sometimes people need to realize that some of the infrastructure that they rely on wouldn't exist at the level
that.
that it does. Because if you look at some of the challenges, some of the other fire districts, they don't have that luxury. You
No,
don't.
Ebbets Pass
Yeah.
is fairly fortunate.
Yeah.
There's another good example is road money.
Mm-hmm.
Road money comes from the state of California. It does
Mhm.
not come, a small percentage goes to the roads. That's
Right.
just because out of the goodness of our hearts, the board gave the road department not enough money.
Right.
But it comes from the state and comes from motor vehicle, gas tax. But if it wasn't for the urban areas that had the volume and it depended just on the gas tax or motor vehicle fees from our county, we would not have the money we do in our road department.
To run the snow plows and everything else.
Yeah, to
Right.
run the snowplows.
We won't talk about snow.
Thank you. Thank you. We did get some new ones, the Butte Fire money,
Right.
we got new.
Right.
Well, every truck now we buy for the road department, we get it so that we can, and we get a plow that we can put on it.
It's part of the standard.
That's
Yeah.
standard operating procedure
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But you can still, whenever it's passed, see a couple of our GI Joe
Yeah.
trucks.
I guess a question. It's from following the county. It goes through episodes. There's been times in following the county is like it's sometimes it's been painful. It's just to watch it function. But it seems is the last board or two. Has the county actually been with the aside of some personnel issues from some department, but overall, are you fairly happy with the
Yes,
state of how
I am.
things are running? Okay.
I absolutely am. When I came back on the board, I was impressed with the quality
Right.
of the staff I saw.
So there's no
and-
golf courses going up in cow pastures in certain places or anything?
No, we don't. That's history. John, you're bringing back a lot of history. Yeah, I'm really pleased. We
Okay.
have new staff.
Right.
We have a new chief operating administrative officer,
Yes.
Krista Donlada, and Krista lives in Angels Camp. She's very good at what she does. She knows the budget inside and out. She's working well with the other departments. They've
She
learned to
seems to
have
be
a
very
lot
efficient. Yes.
a lot of respect for her. She's very calm, what you want from
Right.
a CAO. We have a new public works director, Robert Packinger, who's been with the county, of course, for years and years.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
No, what I mean for Robert, it seems like, there's always, I know you guys face pressure to, yeah, I think having local people be able to rise into a department, they'll make I think they make good decisions because it's their home.
That's right.
They make decisions on what is good. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know you have
You
lots
are
of-
sometimes.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're wrong sometimes.
Of course I am.
As a separate subject.
Yes.
But on that subject, I sometimes would disagree
Okay.
because we've had local that
Didn't turn
hasn't
out so well, yes.
doesn't work well.
Right.
So for me, I look at people who can manage,
Right.
who care about the long-term interests of the county, who can relate and work with the various departments that
Right.
are all have their unique personalities.
Yes. But hasn't Public Works been a little bit troublesome over the years as far
Yeah,
as?
but Public Works, by the nature of their work,
Yes.
and they are a very upfront, out there department.
Yes.
I mean, I hear about it from
But
potholes
there's
to
been a couple,
snow
maybe a
removal.
director, in looking that maybe this was just a resume bump on the place to some place.
But you know what, John?
That's
I don't
okay.
care.
Right.
We have to look at jobs differently.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID's taught us that, but
Oh,
even
boy.
before then, we as a county, well, we want people who are gonna be here for a long time. You know
Maybe you
what? If
don't.
we get 3 to 5 years, and it's a good 3 to 5 years, then great. And they
Okay.
wanna move on,
Yeah. Right.
that's
Right. Yeah.
what happens. People
Yeah.
don't stay forever.
Right. What are some of the things, some of the positive things, let's put a spin on it, that I think you guys learned as a county through the COVID thing? Or are there some of the positive things on it?
One, that we can still operate
Right.
and do business differently.
Right,
I remember years ago, oh no, we can't have people working from home.
right,
Oh, no, you have to be in your, I mean, I'm sure the private industry, everybody went through that. Well, gee, we can still function and still have people working from home.
right.
The teamwork that came together with the different departments, OES, gathering people right away and bringing in the outside groups, the fire departments, the health department, our partnership with Dignity Health was outstanding. If you went to the fairgrounds and we were giving, that was a huge example
Yes.
of partnership.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think COVID taught us that.
Yeah.
And even departments you wouldn't think would be part of that equation,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't think, how's the treasurer part of that?
Right.
Or how is the clerk recorder? But
Yeah.
they were. And so I think those were some of the positive things that came out of COVID.
A question, and I know, and maybe I'm completely incorrect in this, but
I'll
it
tell
seems,
you if you
yes,
are. I think-
we've had some inbound messaging from us on the news side, is that they were worried that the county may get a lot of one-time COVID money, kind of like our one-time Butte Fire funds and everything else, that it gets in the way or makes it so that, you know, there may not be good operations after it, you know, because lots of times the one-time money is like winning the lotto
I
type
know.
of stuff. And I think that's some of the, is that a
That,
concern?
and that's happened
Okay,
before.
yeah.
I mean, whether it's like Butte or
Right, right.
what storm money
Sure.
we have. So the COVID money we have is going towards those things that were impacted by COVID. And the other good thing is when we did the road that businesses could expand their footprint
Yeah,
onto whether
Yes.
it was county property or property in a, like in Valley
even a
Springs.
state highway.
What,
yeah,
not
you
on
have
the state
right,
highway,
but I
we
mean,
couldn't do it, but, you know, private parking
Yes.
area, if the property owner cared. And,
It
you know, I
worked.
thought that was great. So
Yeah.
with the COVID money, there is more coming in, and we haven't made a decision how we're going to do it. The board has generally been very conservative about the use of one-time money. We do not use that to pay ongoing
So
expenses.
it could be earmarked as more of a business investment fund or type
It
A,
could
or
be.
a economic development fund type of.
And well, we've had those
Okay.
before in the
Right.
past, separate from COVID. And we didn't have luck with getting repaid. That was then, now's
Mhm.
now's a new
Mhm.
time. We're not sure what all the rules are regarding the
Right.
new COVID funding that's coming
Right.
in. And so we haven't made a decision what we can do with it. But one thing we don't do with it is pay ongoing expenses.
Yeah, that's been from the couple emails I've had in. That's been some of the concern.
Yeah, no.
And the other one we got, there's a rumor that the
Oh, I
board,
love rumors.
yeah, that the
yeah.
board conspires to keep the sheriff's salary high, the assessor's salary high, and because there's like a formula.
There
There's
is.
like a formula.
Okay,
I'm just
and
just
used to
joking.
be, no,
for
it's a
supervisor
true
pay.
story.
'Cause
Okay, first of all, the board gets paid, the only person gets paid less than the supervisors is the coroner.
right.
Of course, people might say, well,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, it should be the coroner gets more, but, so it's always.
And Kevin does
when-
need a pay raise. So
Yeah.
that's
So because we're like at the public view of the
Right,
food chain of
right,
all the electeds, people think, well, you know, they should work for nothing. Well,
Right.
that's not true, because that means then you're just gonna have rich people being on your board of supervisors. We don't get reimbursed for any expenses.
yes.
We don't get anything when we're off the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it was always a huge, more public perception
Yes.
issue.
Yes.
So we put a formula together. We researched all these other counties. So the formula was that the board would get paid 50% of what all the electeds did, minus the highest and the lowest.
So you throw out the high and the low. So you get
The high, and
got it,
50%
got
of the
it.
others.
Yeah.
The financial group, the assessor, the auditor, the tax collector, the clerk recorder, have been for years saying we need an increase, we're way behind everybody. It was a true
Right.
statement. The board is generally, historically, been very conservative about giving increases to any of the electeds.
Yeah.
I mean, the sheriffs, oh God, I should tell you all, to 86 this comment. But I mean, the sheriff is underpaid in relation to maybe some of his colleagues in other
Correct.
sheriffs.
Right.
So,
I want to say that before we get on this stuff is from following the board and following the supervisors for years and stuff is most of the supervisors, you live, breathe, and eat these jobs. It's not a 40-hour-a-week job
No.
for you.
I love
And,
it. It's great.
Yes,
It's not.
and I think that, people see, if they're getting a decent return on the salary invested, I think whether you voted for a particular supervisor or not, you're getting a pretty good return on your investment. And I don't say that,
Thank you.
no, I mean that, because
Thank
you're out there, you're visible. You were even out there and visible in promoting your district even when you weren't the supervisor. And I think that, luckily that for you, it only happened for like one small
my
period of time, but your sabbatical.
my sabbatical, my first sabbatical.
But I think, because people are like, oh, they're just making too much money. It's like,
No.
the hourly wage, yeah,
No.
it's.
And we
yeah,
don't have staff.
Right,
We don't have offices. But I'm not whining.
Right.
But I know the perception is we meet once a week and that's it.
yeah,
But that's going to happen no matter what. So that just goes with the territory.
yeah,
So we put a formula together on how will the supervisor's pay be determined. Some counties do it based like what we did on elected, some do it based on judges' salaries. Well, boy, if it was judges' salaries, that'd be pretty
sure,
nice.
yeah.
So we picked 50% of all the electeds, minus high and low.
That sounds like a pretty good
And
formula,
so-
actually.
And
You
so
know,
we
it's-
don't raise their, we don't raise their pay just so we can get one. 'cause
Sure,
we're not
right. Just-
Sure. That's what you say. But I will tell you, the auditor, the assessor, the tax, they will tell you they've been nagging us for years for
Right.
increase. Because they can only get what's advertised for the job.
And you've
And
never
s-
had an elected leave to go take a private because they were underpaid, right? I'm just,
Well, we did have one lead, but I don't know if it had to do with pay.
you're right, yeah,
Yeah, one of the auditors.
right.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So,
District 3, your district, what's happening in District 3?
well, one, we are having an Independence Day parade.
I heard
Greater
that.
Arnold Business Association. We're doing it on Blagan Road.
Yes.
It'll be a little short, sassy parade. It'll be about 2 or 3/10 of a mile.
Now,
And-
that area should easily accommodate 25,000 people,
Well,
is that?
I don't
what you-
know. I just met with the CHP and the sheriff's volunteers, and we're a little bit concerned about that. But,
Thank you
we're-
for helping spearhead this to make sure that there's a parade that exists. No, I mean
Yeah,
that. No,
but
I know it's,
it'll-
under the umbrella of GABA, and it's the 40th
40th
anniversary.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's nice from a community perspective to make sure that the 4th, that it happens.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of it, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is a little bit on this was because of the timing of the reopening of California, right? Isn't the fact, because since it was June 15th, Caltrans wouldn't have enough time to process normal applications to be able to do it on Highway 4. Is that
Plus
correct?
Plus the fee,
Okay,
because we're not charging to enter the parade.
got it.
I mean, if, we have received some sponsorship.
Sure.
From Murphy's Hotel, from Callaway's,
Yes.
from the Chamber, and Cedar Creek,
Good.
I think,
Good.
have given us, and so that's
Yeah.
given us a little feed money
Mm-hmm.
to do what we need to do, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we're kind of looking forward to having a fun parade.
Yeah.
And Doug Shin, who's announced it for years, is going to
He's
be
gonna
the
be the
announcer
announcer, yeah.
at the White Pines Post Office.
Got it.
And the White Pines community has been supportive of this,
Very nice.
so.
Oh, it's great that it's going to happen. I know
Yeah.
it's going to be a shorter route.
Yeah.
It will be a little bit of an abbreviated, somewhat
Very
yeah.
abbreviated,
But
yeah.
it will exist,
It will exist,
and that I think is an important thing.
yeah, it
So,
will exist.
Yeah,
John, how long have you been in Calaveras now?
2000.
Is that when I met you? It was
Nah, probably
2000?
started the Pine Tree in 2005.
Well, I met you at some function.
Yeah, so it's been 2000. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
been, and I think one of the blackmail things I have on Merita is I have an interview we did in the library in the kids section that I keep threatening to bring back out of the. I'm just joking, back out of the archives. But
Yeah.
no, it's been fun. You know, it's been a fun run. So and it
Yeah, and your
continues.
kids are all grown.
Yeah.
Do you still bike ride?
No, I keyboard. That's
Oh,
about
you
it.
keyboard.
I keyboard. All right, District 3 stuff. We got the parade coming.
So there's some of the challenges have been the increased population.
Right.
The short-term rentals.
Yes.
I mean, just today.
Politically, how's that being managed? How is that managing that?
I sort of been a little libertarian about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd hate to say to someone, you can't do short-term, we put a
You've
cap
made that
on
investment. That's your property, and you can't.
Yeah, somewhat. So really, if a subdivision wants to do it, I figure let the subdivision, because normally when the county does an ordinance, it impacts the whole county.
Right.
It's not just Ebbets Pass, Murphy's or Arnold area, because Murphy's, Arnold, District 3 probably has the bulk of short-term rentals. I think Copper has quite a few.
Yeah.
So, people can't find rentals now, and
Did the sound? Oh, go ahead. Did the sound ordinance calm down some of the problems that was down there around Copperopolis? Because I know that was perennially.
It was not just
Copper,
but it was Copper. That's the
Right.
only time I've known us to put an ordinance in that impacts one area
Right.
of the county. Because I talked to the realtors in our district, and they didn't want it. They said, "We'll take care of it. We don't need."
So
an
that noise
ordinance."
ordinance isn't applicable
The
countywide?
noise ordinance is countywide,
Okay.
but there's some restrictions
Right.
for the Copper
Yes.
subdivision,
Yeah.
which we don't have, no one has but them.
Right.
So that's an issue. I mean, people can't find rentals. And, we need to stop short-term rentals so we can have rentals. That's a fine line, and I don't think I or the board are ready to do that. We know when we update zoning codes that we'll have to deal with short-term rentals.
And
But I
housing
don't-
affordability issues at all?
Yeah,
Or is
we have a housing element.
Yeah.
But there are things that can be done. People can build secondary dwelling units on their property
Yes.
easier now.
Easy. They've opened up some of that
Yes.
stuff, huh?
So that's great. Or what we've done with allowing people to sort of build their own
Yeah.
and have a secondary dwelling, but it can only be for like family.
Right.
Can't be open market rental. So those are steps that have been taken, but to cut down short-term rentals doesn't mean somebody will rent their house.
Got it. We're out of time.
We're out of time.
We're out of time.
We have to talk about cannabis, John.
We haven't talked. Well, luckily, we're done. We don't have time. Hey, thanks for what you do. Thank you for the
John,
years
my
you've served the
pleasure.
county, and we appreciate it. And thanks for joining us here.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.